One of the richest and most powerful people to have ever lived once said, "Millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do." Now, that quote is interesting and crazy on many levels. One of the reasons this quote carries so much weight is when you realize that the person who said it is JP Morgan. Now, who is JP Morgan? Well, like I said, he's one of the richest and most powerful men to have ever walked the face of the earth. And he was the creator of US Steel, which was the first billion-dollar corporation in history. In addition, he also controlled massive portions of railroads, steel, electricity, and banking. He played a role behind the creation of the Federal Reserve Bank. And one of the largest banks in the world, the JP Morgan Chase Bank, bears his name. And the reason why this quote is so fascinating, because if you were a conspiracy theorist, let's say, there is a real argument to say that JP Morgan is one of the architects of our current matrix, right? Names like Morgans, Rothschild, Rockefellers, Carnegies, and Vanderbilts. If you know your real history, you know that these are some of the biggest families in the world. And these families are responsible for everything: our school system, our medical system, our banking system, our political system. They're even behind the creation of our laws and our justice system. So the fact that this guy said that quote makes it all the more interesting. Like, what did he know? And what was he trying to tell us? So in order to start to understand this quote, we also have to break down what a billionaire actually is. Because we hear this term like a millionaire and a billionaire, but I don't think that most of us can actually comprehend what a billionaire actually is. We just think it's a little bit more than $1 million. But I've used this analogy before. 1 million seconds is 11 and a half days. 1 billion seconds is 31 years. So that right there just puts it in perspective that $1 billion is significantly much more money than $1 million. But let's use another analogy. So in order to spend $1 million in a year, you would need to spend about $2,700 a day. Now, that's a lot of money, but I actually think I could spend that amount, right? It would be tough, but it wouldn't be that hard. We could all do it. Throw in some nice vacations, going out to dinner every day with some friends, get a massage here and there. Bam. You could easily spend that amount of money in a day. But in order to spend $1 billion in a year, you'd have to spend $2.7 million every single day, right? That's impossible to do. So that just shows you that when we talk about a billionaire compared to a millionaire, you were talking about lifetimes more money, right? And you could think of that billionaires are the 1% of the 1%. They are the elite of the elite. And when you have that type of money, generation upon generational wealth, you have the type of money that can change laws and even manipulate reality. When you understand how much money $1 billion actually is, that makes that quote even much more interesting. Now, when it comes to a billionaire, there are real questions that should be had about wealth, inequality, power, and even how that money was accumulated. Because it seems like in this day and age that to make that type of money, you have to cut some corners. You have to maybe break a few laws or bend a few laws. I don't know, right? It's a lot of money, and it could be hard to justify that amount of money when you're looking at the wealth inequality between what you make and some of the employees in your company make. But for this video, I don't want to get into the ethics of a billionaire because I want to focus on this quote, and that's just going to muddy the waters. So if we are looking at the world through rose-colored glasses and we are living in a perfect society, then we could say that billionaires are just really successful people. They are winning the game that our society is built upon. So if we just look at it like that, just as a game of success, the next question we should ask is, why are they so much more successful than everyone else? And the clues are hidden in the quote. Because when you strip away all the fluff around astrology, astrology is really about cycles and patterns. And when it comes to our universe, cycles govern everything. And this idea of cycles and patterns dictating everything is an idea that has been around forever. In fact, the fifth Hermetic principle, the principle of rhythm, states that everything flows. Everything rises and falls, and everything moves in cycles, right? And we know this. We have the cycle of day and night, the moon cycle or the monthly cycle. We have the yearly seasonal cycle of spring, summer, fall, and winter. And we have the cycle of birth, growth, decay, and death, right? Everything we know exists on a cycle. And of course, there's the second Hermetic principle, the principle of correspondence, that states that as above, so below, as below, so above, as within, so without, as without, so within. And so what this second principle is saying in regards to the universal cycles, that the same cycles that occur in nature also play out in human behavior. We have business cycles, we have market cycles, political cycles, and generational cycles. There are even the 4 turning cycles, which I talked about when I reviewed the book, The Fourth Turning, a few episodes back. And as the old saying goes, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And because history rhymes, cycles also rhyme. Every cycle goes through that birth, growth, decay, and death process. And then thinking about the quote, millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. Billionaires are obsessed with where are we at in any current cycle. Are we early? Have we peaked? Are we nearing the end? Because understanding cycles is the key to everything. Summer is the time of growth and abundance. It can be thought of as the golden age or the good times, and winter can be thought of as the bad times. So using this analogy, when it comes to summer, billionaires, they enjoy the summertime. We all enjoy the summertime, right? But the difference between that billionaire mindset and the mindset of everyone else is that the billionaires know that winter is just around the corner. So what they do is they start preparing. So while everyone else, the common folk, are spending time on boats and barbecues and staying up late and drinking, the billionaires are chopping wood. They're making repairs to their house. They're canning food. Essentially, they are positioning themselves for the next turn in the cycle. See, in this simple analogy, the common folk, the non-billionaires, when they are in summer, when they are in a time of abundance, the good times, they believe that this is going to last forever. And despite having experienced many winters over the course of their lifetime, they somehow believe that this time is different, that the good times are going to keep going, that the abundance will continue to flow in. But then winter comes, as it always does, as it comes every single year. And when this happens, they are shocked and they're unprepared. And because they're unprepared, they are struggling to survive. And for most people, this is how their life plays out, right? Every single year. Summer is awesome. They take 2 steps forward, but they don't prepare. They don't pay attention to cycles. And then winter comes, and then they take 2 steps back. And this happens every single year for decades, leaving people in the same place they've always been, never getting anywhere, just struggling to keep their head above water. Whereas the billionaires in this analogy, they take 2 steps forward in the summer like everyone else. When winter comes, they're prepared, and maybe they only take 1 step forward. But then the next summer comes and they take 3 steps forward, and the next winter comes and they take 2 steps forward. So they're constantly moving and adjusting and getting better every single year. And they do this because they learn how to ride the wave. They know that winter is coming. And sure, this winter may be different than the winter before, but it's still winter, right? So the big takeaway from all this is that energy matters, cycles matter, timing matters, right? What goes up must come down. And winter is always around the corner. And history and the cycles of history, they may not repeat exactly, but they rhyme. And to take it a step further, it's much deeper than knowing that cycles exist. You also need to understand that each phase of a cycle must be treated differently, right? Your priorities and actions that you take in spring, that you take in the beginning of a cycle, are much different than your actions and priorities that you take during the fall, during the decay of a cycle. And while that may seem obvious, the problem is very few people flow and move with the cycles of nature, with the cycles of society. And a big reason for this is we become so disconnected from everything. We become disconnected from nature, we become disconnected from each other, and we have become so distracted that we are too busy watching TikTok, scrolling on Instagram, watching football, or arguing about politics that you barely understand to pay attention to anything that's going around you. As the old saying goes, give them bread and circus and they'll never revolt. Or really, in this case, it should be give them bread and circus and they will always be a slave to the matrix. So what can you do? You should study the game of life. You should study cycles. You should study history. You should study human behavior, and you should study yourself. You should learn when to plant, when to harvest, and when to prepare for winter. See, this is the real meaning of that quote. In the most simplified term, billionaires are just very successful people, people who understand how to move and operate. They're people who have learned the rules of the game and how to play the game and how to even bend the rules of the game to their will. Now, whether it's right or wrong, and I'm not telling you to break any rules or even necessarily bend any rules, but I'm telling you to learn everything you can about the game you're playing, because this game is going to be played whether you like it or not. There's nothing you can do. This game will continue on with or without you. And because of that, we now know that the better you understand the game, the better you understand the rules and constraints, the better you can operate. And the better you can operate, the better your life can be. And look, I'm not saying this is going to be easy, right? This is hard. This is hard work, but it's doable. And also, what else do you have that's better to do, right? If you are not happy with your life, or if you want more, if you feel like you could do more and be more and have more, then you need to put in work, right? If you want your life to change, then you have to change your life. And I get it. That's a very simple quote. But most things are simple. And as I've said before, simple doesn't mean easy. So I encourage you to stop doom scrolling, to stop spending hours upon hours watching football games, to stop getting caught up in all the political distractions and the political circus, and study the game of life. See you on the other side.